Episode 50 of the Habs Culture podcast. My name is Marianne Bertaja. I'm alongside Justin Schwartz. It's the big 50th episode. We've been planning to do something special for a while now. I don't even remember the last time we recorded. It's been a few weeks. We've been trying to get something in the works with our guests, our listeners. A few people in the weight room right now. We'll have them join. A few voices you guys already heard before, and obviously some new ones to talk Habs, talk about the NHL, and obviously about the Canucks. But we'll get into that later. Schwartz, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to start back up, dive into a little bit of hockey, see where we are at the midpoint with the Montreal Canadiens. And without further ado, why don't
sit back and just let people talk, I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see some different opinions. I think we talked about this previously, but we always talk about how we have our own opinions, and for the most part, we agree a lot of the time. And, that sometimes it doesn't make for crazy entertaining episodes, but it's because we happen to be on the same page. But let's see if we can find some differing opinions and bring those on board.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think everyone here is a Habs fan. Unfortunately, I tried to get like a Leafs fan in here, just to try and get something going, but whatever, it's okay. Producers telling me our first guest is Rylan Baum. Liam's on the line, so we'll get him in. We've heard about Liam before. He's been here before, so we'll get him in here. Let's see. Let's add him here.
What's going on, guys?
Liam, buddy, what's going on?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, actually really good.
Amazing.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, very well.
Happy to be back once again.
Yeah, happy to have you back, man.
It's nice to see a familiar face around these streets. Yeah, so why don't we just get right into it? Look, we haven't talked Habs in a while. We haven't. And there's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to unwrap. But I just want I'll throw it right onto you. Press you at the top of the show here. Give me your mid-season review. Give me a few notes. Give me a few things that stand out to you. A few things that you'd want to talk about here today.
I mean, I'll start off with the fact that the Habs had a really good start to the season. Nothing like we expected. Caulfield was playing really well with Suzuki, obviously. And now we're at that point where every game seems like a tight battle or a loss. I went to the Panthers game a couple days ago, and it was just like, it was so brutal to watch. We just get so dominated. And, we have no goal scoring capabilities anymore, unless it's Drew Way out of a random power play goal. I don't know. But it's pretty hard to watch. But yesterday was a nice win, I got to say.
Absolutely. The Canadiens have won 3 of their last 4.
Here's where I can, unfortunately, Liam, do you think that's a good thing?
No, not at all.
Because like Ken Hughes said, some wins are good to a certain extent. But at some point, like Schwartz, we were talking about it before, the Hawks won how many in a row now? 3?
The Hawks have won 3 in a row, yeah, and they're playing
and the Habs just keep winning, so we're just staying in the same spot. It's like, to me, like, I love beating the Leafs, but in 5 years, when Connor Bedard's winning the Hart for the Columbus Blue Jackets, you think I'm gonna be thinking about this Saturday night game? Oh yeah, Belzil had a good few shifts. No, I'm not gonna be thinking of that.
And Raphael Harvey Pinard was shutting down Matthews. Like, it's good to see, but at the end of the day, like, what is that? What does that do for our future in the long run, right? So I feel like Montreal now, and again, I want to let you speak, but is in a bit of a tough situation because they have these injuries. The development of certain players has been stalled because of it, and now now it's almost as if they're playing with a purpose because some guys are there to prove a point, right? Whether it's Harvey Pinard or whether it's Belzil. So it's hard to really gauge where Montreal is at, although we think that they're trending downwards, and which we hope in the long run, but they've happened to squeak a few in here, and it's not ideal.
No, for sure not. But realistically, I don't think it's even possible to finish last just because of how ahead of the other bottom teams we are. Like Anaheim, Columbus,
they're 13
and
ahead
Chicago
of Columbus.
We would have to lose a lot of games in a row, and Columbus would have to win a few games, which is definitely possible since they did struggle with injuries. But I mean, unfortunately, I don't think it's possible that we're going to finish last, but hopefully the lottery goes in our way.
I think bottom 4 is like fine. I think it's a good cushion to have.
Yeah, it's definitely doable.
But even at that, Arizona's at 33 points. Like they suck too. Like, I don't know how they're gonna start getting points, but
Look, you know what though, if you look, like, I'm looking at it now, and you look at some of these teams, whether it's Arizona, Chicago, Anaheim, Columbus, like they're stringing some wins together. There is some talent on these teams now, despite being a poorly coached teams and poorly run teams and not having a complete lineup. They're going to find ways to win at some point. Now, if you take back the last four Montreal Canadiens wins, or three of those games where the Montreal Canadiens won, you're looking at minus 6 points, right? So you're sitting pretty at 37 points. You're behind Vancouver, you're tied with San Jose, and Arizona's 4 points behind. So it's like, it's a question of, it's a lose. Like every game, like you got to hope for a loss. You have to.
For sure. I mean, as of right now, current rosters today, I think Montreal has the worst roster. I think Columbus has a better roster than them. Anaheim, I honestly think they have a better roster than the Canadiens. Maybe not Chicago, but Patrick Kane is still a deal breaker.
But even at that though, right? Like
post injury, right? We're talking about here?
Post injury,
yes,
of course. So post injury, I mean, I would even still take Chicago over Montreal. The only guy that's manning the ship is Suzuki, right? And Josh Anderson's gonna have to step up in a big way if he wants to get some points on the board, but it's not looking good. But and on the same kind of note, like kind of just a follow-up question, we saw Slavkovsky's season come to an end, or basically going to come to an end about a week ago now, a week and a half ago.
He'll be back for playoffs.
Back for playoffs, for our deep cup run. But my question to you, or my question, just kind of topic of conversation, like, do you think the way the Montreal Canadiens handled him prior to his injury was the right way to go? What do you think that this injury does, excuse me, to your Slavkovsky? I'll let you take over there, Mark, because I'm having a cough attack.
Well, I want to hear Liam's opinion on this. It's pretty simple.
It's so debatable. Like
do you think he goes down, or he should have went down, or not?
Like, obviously, I think it would have been a good idea to send him down after a few weeks, because he did start off pretty well and he looked in place. But as the season went on, it seemed as though his confidence went down after not scoring for a while. And I mean, being in Laval would have been very good for his development, but I mean, unfortunately, it can't happen anymore.
What about the World Juniors? Think he should have gone?
I would have loved to see him at the World Juniors. I think Seattle did a great job of sending right to the minors for, what was it, like 2 weeks, and then sending him to the World Juniors. It seemed like his confidence was out of the world. So the Canadiens just never make the right decision, it seems, or the decision we want. But obviously, we have to trust Ken Hughes, because
gotta trust the new regime.
Yeah, he's made some good moves, so we have to trust him.
I'm just afraid if he would have gone and like had like a very mid performance, like I feel like he would have gotten it by Habs media.
For sure.
But,
you know what I mean?
But I'll counter that argument and say that he's getting it now. And it's not necessarily coming from Habs media, but it's coming from the public opinion saying, look, there's a lot of people that are premature with their opinions and calling him a bust, which is, in my opinion, you knew what you were getting with Slavkovsky. You were getting a project, but he's still getting a lot of hate saying that, he's a bust. He has 10 points in 40 games. He barely has the puck on his stick. He doesn't drive play. He can't finish, so on and so forth. So what if he did go to the World Juniors and have a great performance,
Yeah, I always say this, that Jack Hughes had 20 points in his rookie season when he was 18. And now look at him. He's maybe a top 10 player, arguably, in the NHL. So the potential is still very much there. So I'm not worried.
Did I just hear you call Jack Hughes a top 10 player in the NHL?
I did.
I don't
for sure
argue with that.
Do you guys have him on your fantasy team, or am I missing something here?
We don't have
the guy plays 6-minute shifts.
I know. You know what? He's definitely emerged as a spectacular talent, and I think that he's proving that this year. And again, like you said, like, jokes aside, he took a little bit longer. And I always like to make the comparison to a guy like Quinn Byfield, who is still yet to hit his peak in terms of what he can do as a hockey player. But no one's giving LA a hard time for taking him at first overall. Sorry, was it?
Second.
Stützle was third. Yeah, sorry. At second overall, and no one's giving him a hard time for being a bigger body who has to adjust to a pace that is completely different when you're 6'5" or 6'4", right? So I don't know. It's a tough situation, and it sucks that now there's no decision to be made. There's nothing you can do because he's injured. But yeah.
Let me ask you guys this, just onto another topic. Who do you think is for sure gone at the deadline?
Mark, you have one here?
I'm gonna go Edmondson.
I think that's a good bet.
If I had to guess, I don't see how no one's gonna pay for that. Like someone's gonna overpay.
First round pick?
Whether it's Ken Holland, whoever it is, someone's gonna overpay. Because I don't think Hoffman or Dadonov are getting moved, unfortunately. And with the rate these injuries are going at, I don't know how Kent is gonna be able to offload all these bodies and then make Laval suffer because we're taking their all-stars, right?
If Sherratt was a first round, he was a first round pick, right?
Yeah.
Sherratt.
Yeah.
Well, Sherratt's a first round pick.
He was an
Then
unprotected
Edmonton's three first round picks.
No, literally.
Unprotected, yeah, that's the Panthers pick. So
sorry if you don't mind me chiming in here, but Mark, why
Yeah.
you don't see Hoffman going, you don't see Dadonov going?
No.
Just is that based off injuries, or is that just based off of who
Just
they are
based
as players and what they've done this year?
I think it's based off the league where there's teams that are like garbage and barely have cap room or suffering on LTIR. Like this trade deadline is probably the worst one we've seen in years. There's bottom feeder teams that are struggling to get guys off of LTIR that have like $3 million in cap space, won't be able to make moves. Just having like, I think $5, maybe $6 million in cap space is probably worth so much just because you could take on someone's bad contract. It's not a thing anymore. This league's in so much trouble cap wise. Like no one has room to do anything. Like it's not normal that every team has 2 players in LTIR. It's not normal to see that.
Right. That's fair.
That's why when you have a flat cap, it's kind of the issue. But that's the only reason why I don't see them being moved. It's like even if a team just wants to take Dadonov off a flyer for a 7th rounder, they can't. It's mathematically impossible.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess follow-up question for you, Liam. And what are your thoughts on Monahan? Assuming that he's practiced this week, he'll most likely come back. You think he gets moved at the deadline?
I think he's a great. Just start off. I think he's an amazing player. Still, he has a lot of offensive upside. He seems pretty sound defensively. I think he'd be a good player to keep for the Canadians in the future. But I mean, if we're trying to lose, you'd probably want to get rid of him and get whatever we can for him. But with the injury, I don't know. It's hard to see him getting moved because he just got placed on LTIR, right? So he's out for a month, and that brings us to the end of February, and the trade deadline's first week of March, something like that. Anyways,
I think so. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just hard to see him get moved if he's not playing at least like 5 to 10 games before the deadline.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sample size is key, especially with guys that have to prove it, right?
But I think Drew Wayne has a great chance of getting moved to a team like Colorado, where he's had chemistry with McKinnon in the past, and he definitely has offensive upside. I don't care what anybody says. He obviously shows it.
It's a $5 million cap hit. Would they
we'd have to
get Horvat, like
yeah.
That's the issue. And the Cavs can't even retain 50% if they wanted to.
Well, now with Caulfield gone, can't we?
You're right. They probably can.
So
but yeah.
maybe it's a good thing. So
we'll see.
It could help them out actually at the deadline having Caulfield on LTIR.
True. Maybe take on a couple more contracts, right?
Yeah.
Or retain one.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see everybody get moved. Hoffman, Dadonov, Drouin, Edmondson. I don't think Savard.
Look, in a perfect world, it makes sense. But like Mark mentioned before, right? Like they have to keep some guys. They can't necessarily dump all these players, have an AHL roster in the NHL, and have a ECHL roster in the AHL, right? Like it just, again, there's development that has to go down, that has to happen down there in the AHL. And look, Montreal can suffer. They can suffer, but it's a question about the development also. So it'll be interesting to see who they give up.
I mean, we're doing pretty well with the AHL roster right now. Raphael Harvey-Pinard on pace, 25
there
goals.
There you go.
But Anyways, we're reaching the time limit here for you, Liam. So we'll pass it on to the next guest. Thank you so much for coming. We'll do it again
Thank
soon.
you.
Always a pleasure, Liam.
Always a
Of
pleasure.
course. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Yeah, no worries. Ciao.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. That was fun as always. Next, I really screwed up my audio here. Next, we got let's see what the producer's saying here. We got AJ. we'll send them in here. AJ,
How's it
what's
going, boys?
on? What's up? What's
Going
up?
good, going good. I apologize if there's a large ruckus in the background. I think there's an event going on at Concordia, but hopefully
Concordia,
these Sony, hopefully these Sony XM5s could cancel out the noise in the background. But
Hey, AJ, we're not
congrats.
sponsored here. We're not sponsored.
Yeah,
here,
no
bro.
worries. Congrats on episode 50. Excited to be on the
Thanks.
pod and can't wait to get the show on the road.
Well,
Yeah,
if someone from
appreciate it.
Sony is listening,
Yeah, we can thank AJ for that one.
we could thank AJ. Exactly.
Not sponsored, not affiliated. Nope.
Exactly. no problem. Anyways, AJ, do you want to piggyback off of what we were talking about? Do you want to talk about anything else? Just you throw us the topics here.
Yeah, so I actually had a few topics in mind. The three topics were Habs prospects, the All-Star game, and a little bit about Connor Bedard. We'll start off with the Habs prospect, notably the star-studded city. Now, according to my stats, as of January 15, 2022, Lane Hudson played 20 games, 8 goals, 14 assists for a total of 22 points. Now, a lot of people are comparing him to Cale Makar. Now, Cale Makar, at the same age, in 34 games played, he had 5 goals, 16 assists, and 21 points. So where do you think his potential lies moving forward?
I don't put him as high as Cale Makar, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Well, also Cale Makar at that age was playing junior A, right? But I think so. Anyways, I know we'll get look Rylan. I see him smiling on the bottom. He's for sure like he needs to talk about this right now. He's fuming. Look, I can see it. But yeah, I see him. Like if I had to put a name, I'd put Adam Fox. But even at that, that's the one comparable I'd have. Just because of the way he skates, the way he moves the puck.
He's very dynamic, of course.
But yeah, I think for him, like this is the first time we're gonna see a guy like that in Montreal. If I'm, and if he grows,
that flashy defenseman.
Yeah, well, because Subban was flashy, but he wasn't the greatest skate. Like he looked like he could skate, but he really wasn't. He just, you know what I mean. But a guy who can move the puck like that and actually quarterback the power play, because I don't know about you, AJ, but when I'm watching these Habs games and I see this little drop pass from the center and then no one knows what to do anymore, and then everyone's stuck there waiting for Drouin, but he's in the rafters. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna need that quarterback, and I think he'll be that guy, and especially like the doctor says, apparently he's gonna grow. So.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, if I'm not mistaken, he's listed at least on HockeyDB, he's listed at 5'9". So if I'm not mistaken, even coming out of the draft, he was even listed, I want to say 5'7", 5'8". So I think that things are obviously looking up in terms of his build, in terms of his physique. Now, like you mentioned before, like, look, it's tough to compare him to a guy like Cale Makar at the end of the day, considering what he's accomplished at the NHL level. But let's not ignore the fact that you mentioned 27 points in 22 games at Boston University, a D1 college playing against D1 schools, a top of the top competition in the US. So, I mean, there's definitely signs in the right direction, proving what he will be able to do in at the NHL level. And it just, from here on out, if he fills out a little bit, right now he's listed at 148. So put on a little bit of weight, grow a little bit, and continue that development in probably one of the better development leagues in the NCAA. I think things are looking up for him as a prospect, and probably one of our better prospects in the system as of right now.
The most exciting, for sure.
Yeah. So we talked about his skating. I personally believe that he could quarterback the power play. Someone who has similar skating abilities would be Antonio Stranges from Dallas Stars, I believe.
Yeah.
He would be sick to have on the power play too. But we'll move on to a more offensive topic. That leads me to my second point, which is the All-Star game coming up. First of all, what do you guys think about the new uniforms, the new jersey going the Miami Vice colorway?
Wait, are we
do you
going
guys
NHL
like it?
Or NHL or AHL? Because Laval's hosting here.
Oh, that's true. No, we'll stick to the NHL for now.
NHL, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's almost running out of ideas. I think that they could have definitely capitalized with the colors. I like the bright pink. I like the baby blue, but I don't know. There's something off in my opinion.
Why? Why are they doing this now?
Yeah.
It's not like it's an anniversary of some sort. Why are they throwing
but
it
they're
back?
playing. But maybe just because they're in. Oh yeah, I guess the throwback doesn't really
It
make
just
sense.
it makes it just random.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
what I found strange, because they're still going to do like the divisional matchups, right? Atlantic versus Metro and Pacific
Are
versus
they?
Central. So
They're showing.
I wasn't sure. Like, I know they stuck to like, I think it was 1994 where they use those vintage jerseys, whatever. I thought they would change Eastern to like the name of the division, but they didn't proceed in that route. But so in terms, I'm not sure if you guys were familiar, on Twitter they had the All-Star fan vote and everything. Fan bases from Montreal, Carolina, Toronto, Ottawa. I think they wanted Caulfield to go for Montreal. Stutzla was pretty famous on the hashtag votes. Martin Nichas, William Nylander. So what do you guys think of them being potentially snubbed? Do you think it's rigged? Do you think the NHL just wants to send their brightest stars to the All-Star game? What are your thoughts on that?
It has to be. It has to be. Like, there's no way that Stutzla or Caulfield had less votes than Austin Matthews.
I know.
Especially on Twitter.
Especially on Twitter. Like, I don't know what are they on Reddit?
Well, because the thing is that I know that there was a final vote that if you were to go into the NHL app and you could have done it manually and like done 10 votes per day or something. So I'm assuming that there's like that Twitter wasn't the only way to vote. But regardless, Twitter's probably one of the bigger platforms, especially for avid hockey fans, in terms of voting and in terms of tweeting and in terms of conversation as a forum. So I'm surprised that like I saw Caulfield and Stutzla at the top, and I didn't see Matthews' name anywhere, Pasternak's name anywhere. So
me neither.
That threw me off entirely.
Like, who's representing the Bruins? Is it Allmark?
I think it's Allmark, yeah. And then Pasternak got voted in, yeah. That's correct.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they want to send their stars.
Go ahead.
Just at the end of the day, it's like who really deserves. I think they didn't want to have another Zemgus Girgensons situation. But at the end of the day, it's like we want to see this player, send them. And Caulfield obviously wouldn't have been able to go anyways, but
yeah, given the injury, but that was only announced like after the fan voting was concluded.
You think they were waiting? You think they were waiting
to see if he would?
It's funny timing.
Be voted in. Yeah, funny time, like just a few days after, a few business days.
Yeah. But you know what? Sorry, I just wanted to chime in here. Like, it's funny because I think that the NHL wants to create a fine line between, well, we don't want you sending the Chad Ruhwedels of the world, but we also don't want you sending, but we're fine. There's a difference between sending a Stützle compared to a Ruhwedel when you're comparing it to the Matthews and the Pasternaks, right?
Nothing.
But the thing is, in this case, nothing. No disrespect, but I saw a lot of people on Twitter that were saying, like, let's vote him in for fun, like kind of like a John Scott situation, which I think is hilarious. But at the same time, you should also reward the guys that don't get as much publicity, whether it's the Caulfield or the Stützles, because Matthews is always in the limelight. Pasternak always in the limelight. So it's I don't know. I didn't love it when I saw that. I was completely shocked.
Matthews sells tickets. That's what it comes down to.
You're not wrong.
That's
they have
what it
Bill
is.
Daly up on NHL.com just resubmitting his votes just to make sure that Florida sells tickets. But being honest, if I'm a Florida fan, I'm not paying to watch Tim Stützle. I'm paying to watch AM34, you know?
That's fair.
But anyways, any other topics, AJ?
Yeah, so another topic would be Connor Bedard. Obviously, he's the young phenom of the 2023 NHL entry draft. Where do you think is the best landing spot for Connor Bedard? Given we saw what he did at the World Juniors, he's a dazzling player. I personally think that Connor Bedard is a good player. I think he needs a big market. A lot of people, obviously, Chicago is looking into trading Taves and Kane. Don't know if they're going to do so by the trade deadline. But given that the market size that Chicago has, do you think it's an ideal spot for him? Do you believe he should go home to Vancouver, or do you think, given the Habs injuries, we should be tanking for Bedard? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think Vancouver should be revoked from the NHL lottery, the draft lottery, if I'm being honest. Same for the Hawks. Could you imagine after that whole scandal they're given the first overall pick? That'd be an absolute mess for the league.
A little bit.
That would be something, yeah.
If he goes to Columbus, I'd be more than okay with that. It's a small market, but like that's first of all, I have a lot of respect for their general manager. I think it's the guy who's like built one team and then had to reconstruct because all of his players left. And then if you add Connor Bedard to Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, Zach Werenski on the back end.
Nasty.
Juracek,
Absolutely nasty.
And they signed Goodrow. Like, they're set. I'd rather him there than Anaheim, if I'm being
I was gonna
honest.
say.
Really?
See, I was gonna actually disagree with that though.
Do they even film
Exactly.
Anaheim games?
Yeah,
Are
but
those
can I-
even on TV?
Well,
Who's
if you don't
watching
mind,
that?
well, here's the thing though, Mark. It's that a guy like Connor Bedard is franchise changing for any franchise that would be lucky enough to get him. So here's the thing: is that you want him going to a big market, ideally, but can you look at it the other way around and say, well, if he goes to a smaller market, that team becomes somewhat relevant? So a team like Anaheim that's based in California, but is in the shadows of teams like LA and even San Jose at this point, to be completely honest with you. If you send a Bedard there, you have the Bedard, the Zegras, the McTavish. Again, look, as a Habs fan, you want to come into Montreal, but if there is one place, it would be pretty insane for that franchise in terms of relevancy.
It's just like I was watching. It was on the TV, the Anaheim Edmonton game. I don't know when it was. Thing wasn't even in HD. They had they barely have. They have guys struggling to film these games over there. No one watches them. They don't get Winter Classics. They don't get.
But
anything.
again, you put them. You give
they'll
them a
give it to
Bedard.
them, yeah.
But if you give them a Bedard, I guarantee you next year. Let's say Bedard drafts Anaheim number 1. And I'm speaking to both of you here. You're tuning into some Anaheim games. I can promise you that.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, you say unfortunately, but it's not an unfortunate thing. Like for the league itself, and we talk about how they have to send their stars because it pays the bills. But if you send a Bedard to Anaheim, you automatically now you're bringing a new franchise relevancy. And if you're bringing a new franchise relevancy, then all of a sudden there's more marketing opportunities. So it's like it's interesting to look at it from both perspectives, I guess.
He can pay the bills in Arizona. That's for sure.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah. What do you guys think about the market in Arizona? They're a young team. They're definitely in a rebuild. They got Logan Cooley. That's probably going to crack the lineup next year. If not, he's going to play another year in NCAA. But yeah, I think Arizona's a good market. It'll definitely help grow the game there if Bedard is drafted. I know they don't have an NHL size arena at the moment, but I think it would definitely contribute to that moving forward.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's Bettman's little. It's like it's his kid. For some reason, he's in love with that team.
Yeah.
And who knows? Like, what if they relocate to Quebec City and then Logan, what's it called? Bedard is going to wear a Nordiques jersey. Oh man.
Oh god.
I think the Nordiques would be my second favorite team automatically. What's that? One can only dream. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't mind. Honestly, I'd like Columbus. If I'm being honest. I like the Blue
Columbus
Jackets.
not.
I don't know about their coach though. Maybe that's the one weakness there, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Any last words, AJ? Before we send you?
No, man. I think I respect the time crunch. Appreciate you guys having me on the pod, and wish. No problem. What's it called? Just a quick last word before I head out. Best of luck on the next 50 and many more episodes to come.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Talk to
Ciao.
you soon.
See ya.
For sure.
Great
All
convo.
right. Great convo. Let's see here. What do we got next? I'm just waiting on the word from producer. Yeah. It looks like we got AJ. Another
part
AJ.
two.
Yeah,
AJ part two.
A.J. AJ part 2. So add him to the stream here.
Hey,
AJ,
boy.
what's going on?
Not bad yourselves.
You hear us good?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. So before we get into this, I've been told that AJ's been nervous all morning, not because of the podcast, but because his beloved Cowboys are going up against a juggernaut tonight actually.
Don't give them that credit. Don't give them the
before we get
juggernaut credit.
Before we get into hockey talk, AJ, how are you feeling this morning? Is everything good? Have the nerves kicked in?
The nerves definitely have kicked in, I'd say since yesterday's games.
Damn.
I mean, they bring it up on every broadcast. So
They're always talking about the Cowboys.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game.
It will be.
Nice 6:30 sweat.
but I mean, talking about the Cowboys, I know you relate this team to another hockey team.
I do. Yeah, I do.
I mean,
I don't know about anymore
I
though.
don't think it's comparable anymore, but let's talk about last night.
About that comparable team.
Yeah, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Toronto Maple Leafs. What do you have to say, AJ, about the Leafs?
You know, they came out as the regular season Leafs. But second period, they start the period with a power play, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they have a chance to pretty much put the game away. I mean, you never know with that team, but 3-0, 2 periods left.
Against Laval.
It's GG's against Laval. But number 28 on the Habs did an amazing job on the power.
You afraid to say his name, AJ? Like, what's going on here?
Devo?
Yeah.
I
Something
mean,
against Devo?
No. I mean, he's become my favorite player on the team, actually. And that's someone I think, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if you keep him, do you move him?
You
I
keep
know
him.
I keep him too. I mean, as a 3C
I like Devo.
moving forward, I think that's pretty deep.
And I think he's finally settled into Montreal. Like, I feel like that first year he looked like miserable. And I don't know how you're miserable after leaving Arizona. Like, I could just be saying that could just be like his resting face. It's kind of like Dadonov. You look at him and you go, this guy's playing the sport he loves and he looks pissed off. Like, you know what I mean?
He doesn't speak a lick of English, so like I don't know. Like it's tough. It's tough. It's
Those
tough.
golf tournament clips.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Guy barely forgot that he almost didn't show up. He was late. Anyways,
man.
AJ, like you were saying with Devo.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been key to the PK recently and really taken his game up compared to last year, at least. I mean, I think we notice him a lot more. But yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys thought of doing with him come deadline time. I know I'd keep him. Obviously, if you get an outstanding offer, you kind of...
I think that's the scenario here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing.
But yeah,
but like a late first rounder, I don't even know if I do that. Like, I don't know about you, a late first rounder for Dvorak?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what we paid for him? Or a future pick?
Exactly.
Essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, a bit desperation there back then, but after losing KK,
was, yeah,
you had no choice, right?
Is he like, was he worth that? I don't know, but you had no choice, and you didn't know that we were gonna fall off so hard.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it was pretty. Yeah.
But yeah, I think another question I have for you guys is, where do you see Sheldon Keefe a year from now?
Interesting.
Sheldon Keefe or Kyle Dubas? Or both?
Both, honestly.
Do you think they're attached at the hip?
I think so.
Going into the offseason?
I think so.
This year,
I think so. You know when they say like, oh, this is like the general manager's team. Like, you know how it took like 8 years for it to be Marc Bergevin's team? This is
Dubas' team. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And like because they don't have one single owner, it's like a bunch of different companies on the league, MLSC and whatever. Like, how do you let not only Dubas run the show here, but Brendan Shanahan? Brendan Shanahan's gone through how many employees now? How many has he just run through?
And how many plans too? Like
Shanahan
plans?
I think we're at part 6 maybe.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I think what's his name? Nick Foligno was just one part of the like, that's Shanaplan 4. I think Nick Foligno was Shanaplan 4.
That's funny.
Being honest. And then he's gonna eliminate them in round 1 with the Bruins. That's Shanaplan 7.
Look, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what the look. To be honest with you, like I'm far from a Leafs hater. Like I I don't see Keefe being fired regardless of the outcome this season. I don't. I think that he's an actual good coach, and I think that he coaches the team properly. I think it's tough when you're dealing with players that sometimes their ego and their, like the way they perceive themselves is greater than others do, especially when you're a hockey team in a professional league. But again, like I think Keefe has done what he's had to do. And again, it's tough being in a market where you're always under fire, where you're always going to be criticized for every little move you do. Now, Dubas, on the other hand, I think is a different story, right? The moves that he's made at the deadline, what he's done to build his team, right? Like there's many questionable situations where he brings in his Sault Ste. Marie players and calls it a day, or he trades for Foligno and gives up a first round pick. Like, there's so many questionable things. So I think that a lot of the blame could be put towards Dubas in this case rather than Sheldon Keefe. But that's my opinion.
I think Sheldon Keefe's a good coach too.
Yeah.
Under that regime, I don't understand how you can keep going and you keep stopping at the same first round exit, and you're like, how do you accept this management group?
I would tend to lean in the direction that Dubas would be let go first, just because what big changes has he made?
Well,
none.
That's the thing, right? You can look. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
If flip-flopping goaltenders every off season, I mean, Jack Campbell was always a backup goalie.
He was
his
never,
days in LA.
Yeah.
He was never an established starter. He had a great team in front of him. I mean, we kind of see that this year too in Edmonton. But
the best goalie Dubas had was McElhinney. If we're being dead serious here,
okay,
he was the most consistent
I don't know
for
about
the Leafs.
You gotta go with Freddie.
Well, Freddie had his ups and downs, though.
Yeah, but overall, they took him for granted considering what they're dealing with now. In my opinion, at least.
They did take him for granted. They did. 100%.
I thought the media was way too harsh on Freddie. He kept them in so many games.
But again, see, that's the problem with Toronto and these markets like Montreal, Toronto, right? Like let's not ignore the fact that Toronto's third in the league, right? At 20. And again, I know the playoffs are a different beast altogether, but it's hard to let's just say they get to the first round, they play against Boston, which again, tough matchup, right? Like first in the league, I've lost 9 games all season, 5 in regulation. But if they somehow they had a decent series, they had a pretty good series against Tampa last year. If they build off that and beat Boston, then what? Then this conversation is just thrown out the window, in my opinion. Because I think that all they have to do, which might be considered sad to most, but all they have to do to ensure job security is get past the first round. So if they're able to do that, it 100%, I agree, it is. But that's what that whole situation
is. It is ridiculous, but it's a huge step for that franchise.
Yeah, you know what?
It's sad. It's not comparable to.
I don't know why I can't. There's something about me that, like, look, obviously when it comes down to the Toronto versus Montreal rivalry in game, whether it's playoffs or non-playoff hockey, I'm like, there's this rivalry. It's like you hate the Leafs, you hate the Leafs, you hate the Leafs. But there's something like, for some reason, that it's like part of me just wants to see them get past the first round and just call it a day. But I know there's a lot of people that will disagree with me on that. But it's just like, I don't know. I feel like they're too good to not get there. But
it's not the organization that I have an issue with.
No, I know.
It's the media.
Right.
It's not normal how this team's been gassed up. Every year they have the third best odds to win the cup. How is that possible if you can't make it past the first round?
Great question.
Like, I'd rather put my money in the sewer.
Yeah, you might as well take
how do you have
a
the
long
third best
shot
odds?
bet.
Yeah.
Right. That's fair.
Speaking about the harsh media in Toronto and Montreal, what do you guys think about the kind of major reactions yesterday with the Caulfield injury news? Everyone complaining about the transparency with the medical staff within our organization.
Like, about that they weren't transparent?
Yeah, or that why is everyone always getting hurt? I know my opinion on it, but
Well, there's injuries
I'm
all around
curious.
the league that are like the Tanner Pearson one's horrendous. Like the fact that he has 3 hand surgeries is ridiculous. But look, after what Pat Brisson said, like Cole should have been taken out a while ago. Why are you making him play in a season that doesn't matter? Is a
Well,
bit
see, that's what I don't understand
ridiculous.
either, right?
That I don't understand.
Yeah.
Unless he was being reluctant, but at the same time, it comes down to the team. It's listen, you're up for a contract next season. You don't want to bust your shoulder. And
Yeah,
and now also the fact that he's not going to hit a certain amount of goals or whatever, or reach his highest goal mark of his career, will it affect his contract? It's probably not, because you could just project what he's going to do.
Yeah, I
you know
don't
what?
think so.
You know what I'm more
I
worried
think he
about,
still
if
hits 9
anything.
anyways.
No, 9 goals rest of season. Yeah,
No,
I agree. But
9 million.
Oh, 9 million. I was like, 9 goals rest of season. I'll take that
No.
any day. But yeah, no, I agree. It's tough considering that, is it his right or his left? It's his right.
It's
No?
right. Yeah, it's
This
right.
is right.
So he's a right shot. Look, Josh Anderson had the same thing on his left, and again, far from the same player at all. But all I'm saying is that it's not an easy surgery to recover from, especially when you're a pure shooter, a pure goal scorer. Now, the one thing that I heard circulating, and that I guess you could say is to his advantage, is that he's not a shooter that shoots with his body weight. It's in the flick of the wrist. So I guess you can say like it's less upper body and more kind of like his actual arms, which is, well, again, that's massive speculation. But maybe like it's tough to see now, because now it begs a question. Well, 2 to 3 month timeline to get back on the ice and get practicing again. And what if he comes back and he's not the same player? What if he doesn't score 7 goals in 10 games next year, or 5 goals in 10 games next year? Is the media gonna blow a gasket? Like it's tough. Again, like back to your point, AJ, about media.
I mean, I think it's kind of being blown out of proportion, to be fair. I think everyone, for some reason, gets very butthurt when they find out about our star players' injuries, or they always have criticism on how they're handled. But like, medicine is complicated. You can't say, oh, this guy's going to be fine on this day, timetable wise. It just doesn't make sense. And and I have faith in our new regime that they're tackling these so-called issues. And I mean, Kent Hughes in his presser, he mentioned how they had an abnormal amount of back injuries in the past year, and it was like top of the league, and how they're addressing that. And I think that's a positive thing going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like how they're managing and learning through this new regime. Like if we're talking about Slavkovsky's situation, I know you guys talked about it earlier, but I wouldn't have sent him down to Laval. I agree with not sending him to the World Juniors, simply because, like I think Mark said, what if he didn't perform? And I think he obviously can. He could have tore it up in the World Juniors. Laval, who knows? But it could hurt his confidence more. And I saw great things from him in the NHL. Stat sheet aside, it's about the little things. And Kent Hughes said you can't ask so much of him in such an early time frame.
Yeah,
Right.
we got to use the eye test like a lot on him.
Yeah,
especially as
Exactly.
adapting to a smaller ice. But
I think
that's
time will
key.
tell.
yeah.
Time will tell.
But
for sure.
anyways, we're running out of time here for you, AJ. We thank you so much for joining. It was your first time. We're happy to have you back whenever
Thank
you
you
want.
for having me.
Yeah, no
Thanks
worries.
a
It was
lot.
a fun talk. It was good topics. Medicine.
Yeah,
Good topics.
absolutely.
It's the first time we talked about that on the pod.
We need a medical professional on next.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. But,
Anyways,
thanks again, AJ. It was fun.
Thank you
you.
guys.
Have a
Go
good
Cowboys.
one. Okay. See ya. All right. Wow, reaching the 45-minute mark already. Now we're gonna add in 2 guys at once. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe just a bunch of talking all over the place. We'll see how it goes. We got Josh and Matt to the stream now. I know, or I've been told. Well, look at this. I've been told that they're preparing a lot of stats and stuff. So I can't wait to hear the numbers on this here. What's up,
You're on.
guys?
You're
How's it
on.
going?
Yeah, Josh is on mute. You guys
Josh
hear
on
me?
mute?
Yeah.
We hear you. Yeah, we hear you.
Josh
Josh
doesn't
is on mute.
have AJ's Sony $4,000 headset.
There you go.
No,
Shout out AJ.
Josh, need a sponsorship, eh? We'll try to get
Yeah.
the sponsorship.
Hello?
He's struggling. He's still.
You guys hear me
struggling.
now?
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
All right.
Welcome to the pod.
What's up, boys?
What's going on?
What's up?
Yeah,
Not
let's
much.
hear it. Let's hear
Just
it. What do you
so
guys,
I'll
what do you guys
start
want
it
to
off.
talk about?
I'll start. Did piggyback off that last guy? I know you guys were talking Leafs and stuff. I know me and Matt have spoken about it before. Do you guys think Dubas is a horrible GM?
No.
No?
No, I don't.
No.
I think horrible is
Maybe
is
not
like,
horrible, but I don't
But I-
find him.
I
Good.
do think he's made some moves that you can, you go back on and you're like, well, why?
Yeah.
Like what?
Like
Is,
the
where? Like
Foligno, like giving
Yeah.
up first round picks at the deadline. You can even look at it if you want to compare it to the Habs. The Bergevin brought in Perry, Stahl, Edmondson, Allen. They all have cups. All the guys the Leafs brought in don't have one cup.
right. That's a good point. There's no
I think
experience, right?
Dubas has been
Exactly.
pressured by media. I think that's what the biggest issue is. Like, there's
Yeah.
been pressure moves, like dating back to John Tavares. That's a pressure move.
Yeah,
The
like that
homeboy
one they
wants to
pretty
sign with
much
your team.
Yeah, like they pretty much got rid of Kadri and could have maybe even had another contract with that to sign Tavares. Tavares is a
Mhm.
great player, but Kadri would have helped them a lot also, I feel like, because they could have had some Kadri and someone else even.
Problem is also, what more can you do with a team like that? You know what I
That's
mean?
the
It's so hard because they're not a crazy deep team, but they have a solid top nine. They brought in Simmons for, let's say, a third, fourth line role, which is he's perfect to have on your third and fourth line. It's tough to like how much can you move around? If you're going to move around, you have to make a huge move. You know?
I
You
think
can't.
the
You
goalie-
can't just. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the goalie situation hasn't helped them either. It's just a revolving door there, pretty much. You bring in guys like Murray, who's been okay, he's been good, but you bringing him in was a huge risk.
Right. Yeah. Well, look. To be honest, Mark and I talk about this all the time, and in our opinion, it dates back to the Tavares signing. Right now, because of the lack of money within their system and the fact that they have four guys that account for 50% of their cap, now they're forced to hand out these tryouts and these $1 million deals. Well, you sign you have Bunting at $1 million right now. What happens when it's contract year and he wants $4.5 million?
It's over.
You try
It
to
is
find
contract year.
it is contract exactly. So it's just so tough when you don't have the money and you have to bank on these lower level third and fourth line guys to perform. When in turn, how can you expect much from those guys?
That's where prospects also come in, though. So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have prospects in the pipeline making league minimum, guys like, I mean, it's hard, but guys like Cole, guys like, Colorado, like Newhook, who Colorado had. If you don't have guys like that are coming up that are making league minimum, then, you're kind of screwed in the end because you have an elite team, but you need guys that can chip in offensively in the third and fourth line, guys like Lehkonen also that in that cup run.
Well, that's it, right? Lehkonen. We trade Lehkonen and he goes and gets a nice deal from Colorado,
Yeah.
but that's a deal that the Leafs wouldn't ever be able to afford as a third
Yeah.
line, but would be a perfect player for a team like that.
Even a
So
guy like
the-
Hyman that they got rid of.
Well, that's it too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the
And
league
then-
minimum is a really good point, though, because they missed
Yeah.
out on their window when Marner and Matthews were all making league minimum.
Correct.
Like, they were good hockey players. They weren't just like trying to make the team. They were stars at that point, and they
Well,
just
that's it.
missed out on a huge opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I know
too
me
bad.
and Matt were talking about before. I guess we'll move to the Habs now. What do you guys think of Dak? I know me and Matt think he's amazing. I think he has a skill
Yeah.
set that is very, very, very unique.
I can let Mark take this one, but I think he's unbelievable.
I still can't believe the Hawks gave up on a 21-year-old like that. Like, it's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. Like, I was scared of his skating before the season started, and then you watch him.
He's a good
not
skater.
even- he's a great skater. He's a very good
Yeah.
skater,
Mhm.
and he plays the body. He's good. Like, he's an all-around stud. Like, he's
6'4",
very good.
almost 200 pounds, and he skates like that and has his
And he
head
has
up all the time.
confidence.
Well, that's the thing, right? He plays with confidence. And you know what? The one thing that we've talked about before, but I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, is that what he does with the puck on the boards in tight, especially at his size, is so impressive. Because usually, like a guy like Slav, who's like he'll figure it out, but he's a little bit awkward in those situations where he can't make the tight turns, he can't protect the puck in tight. But Dak at 6'4", 200 is able to do that with ease, and that's a skill that you don't find on that that you pick up off the street.
Yeah, he's very, very skilled. I think that people were saying that he could be a 1C over Suzuki. Obviously, I don't see that. I don't see that yet. Especially, I mean, he's also 2 years younger. He still has time to grow. I don't see that at all. But I think he's a perfect 2C moving forward. Perfect.
I agree. Yeah.
I think even like you're talking about along the boards, he's a big boy. Like no one can get the puck off him. Like even Gudis when he sat him down last week and then stared over him. Not many people can do that. I know Suzuki did it before in that game, but he's a guy, and I think even he should be the one carrying the puck in on the power play. His zone entries are, I think, right now better than Suzuki's.
Speaking of that, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I think he's an underrated play driver. Like I don't think he gets enough credit for actually having the puck on his stick and making things happen.
Like he'll carry it out of the zone and he'll beat one guy, and then he just to make a move at the blue line or move it out, and he gets in most of the time. I would say. I don't know the stat on it, but it's got to be his zone entry's got to be the top of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say, speaking of that, with Suzuki's zone entries, it's like it's getting scary. I don't know. It's like
on the power play, especially.
Yeah, the power. That's what I mean. The power play, like that drop pass, it works because I mean, listen, teams have said that it works because it's a high percentage play. You're coming in with momentum, but at the same time, it's just maybe we need a new guy. He's a great player, but his zone entry is just I don't know if he's that guy.
Even on the power play, like you have to have different options. Right now, the whole league knows it's going to be Suzuki trying to carry it in. Even with Cole gone now, you got to have different guys who can carry it in. So if they see Suzuki carrying it, maybe they don't know they can go to Dak. Dak can carry. You got to change it around. The power play is very predictable.
And especially when you don't have a defenseman per se that has the skating ability to bring it across the line, because a lot of the times the drop pass will go to a forward, but sometimes if the drop pass isn't open, the defenseman, whether it's the McCarr, the Fox, will take it in themselves. But we're rotating Matheson and then Jackeye/Barron on the other unit. Like that's not again, we're a team that will figure it out in the coming years, but as of now, that's just not.
I mean, I don't think the guy on the team yet that's going to be able to do that is here yet. I think our best bet, I like Barron as a puck mover, but I think the guy who's going to be on the power play for a long time is Lane Hudson.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even a guy like that hurt the team, even though he's a goalie, him going out, I think, destroyed the defense.
That's true. Also,
a lot of people didn't like the pick, and I didn't think I was the biggest fan of the pick at the time. Yeah, but now he's might be our best defenseman already.
Yeah, I agree. Do you guys
also
do you guys follow?
Sorry for puck moving before we move on from the topic. Logan Mailloux.
Oh,
he could possibly be that guy. He could possibly be that guy.
He gets dunked on Twitter all the time. He's having a good year.
Speaking of Logan Mailloux, didn't Bettman come out and say because of that whole scandal with who was it? What was his name? He was bullying the
the Arizona,
the Bruins.
Yeah, the Arizona. Yeah, exactly. So Bettman came out and said, just like him, Mailloux doesn't have exemption to come into the NHL yet. He has to get approved. So, which is now it's a whole different story. But ideally, he'd be great also.
Right. Yeah. No, he's definitely. And look, you look at his college stats. He's he's playing in the OHL. He's literally point per game as a defenseman.
And he missed a year of hockey.
Yeah, that's true. He missed a whole year.
Yeah. So, he's going to need a bit more time, I guess. But again, we're not in a rush to have a come over yet.
Yeah. Switching topics, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Bruce Boudreau was fired this morning. Big shock.
I mean, he honestly was fired a week ago.
Yeah.
As an organization, how do you let one of your employees cry behind the bench?
I think the Canucks are a poverty franchise after doing that. You can't do that.
Jim Rutherford's in the Hall of Fame, and he let that happen.
Yeah, you can't let that happen. I mean, he gave everything. He was maybe not the best coach at times, but you can't do that. Keep it within the organization if you know you're interviewing people, but don't let the whole media know about it. Then it's just awkward. And he was a professional about it. He showed up every day, still worked.
And you know what my question is here is that I see a lot of people, giving a hard time to a guy like Elliot Friedman who broke the news. But in my opinion, who was the one within the organization that actually relayed that information? Like, that's just ridiculous. Because now you give it to Elliot Friedman, it's blowing up. Like it's
easy to assume also. If you're Elliot Friedman, it's easy to assume, but it's just it's a tough look. It really is. It's really, really bad.
And honestly, does that coaching change do anything for Vancouver rest of
No.
like what again, and in my opinion, and this is what I want to say, because you look at a guy like Martin St. Louis, who's coming in as the Montreal Canadiens coach with very little experience as a head coach, but he's going through a learning curve and he's figuring it out. So you just went from a guy like Bruce Boudreau, who has a track record, to a guy like Rick Tocchet that also has a track record, but a track record in the exact same league, who's been fired for similar reasons. So now you're getting a recycled coach that's going to do what exactly? So in my question to you is like, is there anything that you guys would have done differently? Like, are there any guys that would you rather bring in a guy like St. Louis, who doesn't really have the track record but could figure it out? You know.
I think the coaching carousel thing, like even the Habs used to, they just used to hire a coach that kept getting fired. I think like that's what they did with St. Louis. You got to bring in some new blood at some point. Like, doesn't Boudreau have a better winning record, like win percentage, than Tocchet does?
Boudreau has a cup.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's like on his career in like 1,000 whatever games, he has like a 600.
Yeah, like what the team is The team's horrible. I think they have a locker room problem more than a coaching problem.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
I saw his coaching record yesterday because I was watching the Vancouver game. I saw Boudreau's coaching record yesterday with Vancouver. It was like 50-39. It's not like it was atrocious. You know, it's not a losing record. So, clearly it wasn't working there, but at the same time, he wasn't atrocious as, you know, fans are making it out to be.
And I'm gonna take this might be a little bit bold, but I think that it's easy to say now, but I think at the time where Vancouver screwed up was giving JT Miller that contract, and now having to deal with Bo Horvat being gone by the deadline, basically, because otherwise, you know, you lose that leadership.
Horvat.
Yeah,
you lose a guy like Horvat, then he's your leader in the team. He's the one guy, like from what I've seen on just Twitter and stuff, he's the guy who keeps the room, like he's the glue to the room. You lose him, then what happens? You have Miller, you still have Pettersson, Hughes, you still have Kuzmenko, who knows what's going to happen with him. But I don't know. I think they're trending in the very.
Can they afford to sign him?
I don't know. I mean, you're getting Horvat off the books, but
they have $13 million in OEL and Tyler Myers. OEL's locked in until 2027.
And he's and OEL was a healthy scratch a couple nights or like last week.
Yeah.
Tyler Myers
that first
till
year
2024.
with Vancouver, it was already tough.
You think that they're better off like just doing like a full rebuild, getting rid of everyone?
Well, they should have when
hard.
Miller was up for debate. That should have been if we're trading Miller, you're rebuilding, you trade everyone. But now they signed him, so it's like, well, why'd you sign him? You know.
See, that is where they made like, and again, I want to hear what you guys have to say. But it's like you have Pettersson 24, Besser 25, Bo's 27, but he's gone now. Like your team is relatively young, and that contract and the OEL and the Tyler Myers contract are holding them back so much from being a great hockey team.
Yeah,
I think they originally got them as guys that would fit perfectly into, you know, a cup-winning team for a run for 1 to 2 years, and then, I mean, it has a lot to do with Besser also, who's not really stepping up to the plate as he used to. But I think they're in a bit of a state of shock. They're in like a middle ground that they can't get out of.
I even think Hughes and Gordon can kind of look at this and be like, hey, we can't do this, because I feel like they also kind of rushed it a little bit, trying to like
Hughes
speed up. Like I'm saying the Habs should look at it, like not do what they were doing. Like I think they sped up their kind of rebuild or retool a bit too quickly to try and get there. Like the Habs, like I don't think they should go make a big splash at the free agency this year, for example. Like you still have time, let the young guys grow. Like you saw Barron got sent down, came back up. Now he's looking very good. I don't know if you guys agree with that. But I think he's looked very good. He's been playing with Edmonton, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that especially with the Habs, you have to. You need some older veterans. You can't have loose cannons, kind of like I don't know what's an example. Like you can't have the kids running the show, for example. You need guys like Anderson. You need guys like Eddie, which I agree that we're probably going to trade him anyways. But you need guys like that to kind of control the room a bit. Even though Suzuki's, you know, mature for his age, you need guys that can kind of guide the young players, and even guide Suzuki, who's still a first-year captain.
Well, that's why I think it's so important to attribute value to when you get to the trade deadline and you're saying, well, who should go? Well, again, we talk about it's easy to say we want to fire Sale, but you fire Sale, and then you, like you said, you have the kids running the show, and you don't have that leadership in the locker room that holds the team down. So, and I think that's what happened in Vancouver. Like the average age has got to be I'm looking at it now. They don't have a forward over the age of 28. Like, they have to have a forward core that's probably in the average age of 24, 25. Like, that's young. So
What do you guys think of? I think one guy the Habs very much miss is Corey Perry in the room.
Oh
Even
yeah,
though,
yeah.
like I saw someone say on Twitter, if Tampa wins the cup this year, his contract's coming up. Would you guys bring him back?
if
Obviously,
again,
You
why
want us
not?
to, obviously.
he's gonna if they have Maroon on their roster, I'm sure they're okay with bringing Perry back. You know, like a 1 year or a 2 year again for a
No, I'm
million
saying
a
do you
year.
think the Habs should bring him back?
Oh, the Habs should bring him back. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Why
Yeah.
not? It's cheap. It's cheap, and look, you're gonna lose Drouin free. Like, assuming he makes it to
He's
free
gone.
agency this
He's
year
finished.
without. Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's
He's
done.
he's gone.
And then you're gonna
Yeah.
trade a few contracts here and there. Like, there's gonna be some money, and you might as well bring in a guy like that for
Well, I think
leadership purposes.
we're projected to have the Habs like almost 30 million in cap before obviously the Caulfield signing, just with the guys
Right.
going out. Like, you have Dadonov coming off the books, you have Drouin coming off the books.
Hoffman off next year. At the end of
And,
next year, he's done.
And Monahan as well, if I'm not mistaken, unless
yeah.
they decide to re-sign him. But that's a
Yeah.
question for a later
I think
date.
I think him and Edmonton are going to be the two guys to go. I feel like.
Yep. Again, it will be interesting to see how many games he gets in before the trade deadline,
Yeah.
considering the injury. But
Yeah.
he's played well to date. So
Like, Savard is not movable. The only thing he's good at is that one move at the blue line.
That one
And
little
block-
toe drag.
Yeah.
the little
It's
toe
patent.
drag.
It's
And
actually patent that move. Like, no one else
Every
can
time
use
he's
it.
at the blue line.
all over
Guys,
Twitter.
Like, it's not normal,
Why is he good at it? And then you have
and no one can
and he
stop
blocks
it. How
so many
like,
shots too.
It's like in
This
slow
guy blocks
motion.
shots. You see, last night there was like one shift. This guy blocked 4 shots. I was like, what the?
Yeah, that guy's a beast.
Yeah.
MA, I know you like him. What about Dubois?
Dubois. Oh yeah, I like Dubois.
Interesting.
Would you trade? So I saw there was a lot on after Tony and like Eric Engel spoke about it. Would you trade for him next year or wait it out and risk not getting him?
I wouldn't give up assets for him.
Yeah, I agree.
For a guy
Because-
who's publicly said, "I would like to one day play here," I would never give
Yeah.
up assets.
I think it also
Yeah.
depends on who we get in the draft. That's a huge
Sure.
factor. If
I
we
think
if we drop to, let's say, 6,
Yeah.
7 and get it, and we can only pick up, let's say, the best defense available or the best winger available, maybe that's a better scenario to get him. But if
Right.
we end up getting top 3, we can get Fantilli or Bedard, which would be huge. And I mean, obviously he's still a great addition. You can get him as a winger, even put Bedard as a winger.
Mm-hmm. That's
But-
true too.
Even
Yeah,
if they
there's
draft
I
Leo
think
Carlson.
Leo Carlson.
Yeah, Leo Carlson.
Big
Right.
winger,
And-
yeah.
I think
Even
regardless,
Dubois.
I think the Montreal Canadiens, and I say this from a non-biased standpoint, I think the Montreal Canadiens are 2 years out from having a very, very solid top 6. Because if you look at a guy like Dubois, you look at the draft this year, you look at the potential development for the younger guys and where they'll be in 2 years from now, like you're looking good.
Even a guy no one talks about is Sean Farrell. He's
Yeah,
been
that's-
Oh boy,
Yeah.
tearing it up at Harvard this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
He might
how
win the
what
Hobie Baker.
timeline is with him. I don't know what the timeline with him, but he's going to be good, hopefully.
You know what? It's probably better to just let him figure it out
Just-
in college and keep dominating, right?
and
Yeah,
not
I think
talk
our
about
biggest
him.
problem is going to be goaltending.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a massive.
Like, do you
Like,
really think
Montembeau, the way he's
Montembeau is the
playing.
future? Like, I know
No,
Ken
I
said
think he
it.
could be
No,
like,
but
I
he's
think he could be
standing
like a
on his head for
1B.
now.
I think like a 1B, maybe like a backup. I don't think he can ever be the guy.
Yeah,
I agree. I think a career backup is great, and I think that if he has to come in for relief for a guy that gets injured, aka in this case Allen, like
He can do it.
he'll figure it out and he'll face shots. But if there's no way this guy can play 30 to 40 games a season, there's no way.
Mm-hmm. No.
In my opinion, I guess he's already played like 20, almost 20 games, but still,
He's been like 7 straight now.
Yeah,
but when there's no
He's been
pressure, I want to see
Yeah.
when there's
No,
pressure.
yeah,
Games don't
exactly.
matter.
You know what I mean?
but Sean Farrell, just back on that topic, 29 points in 19 games, like
He's
at
gross.
the again the well, I don't know what the ECAC is, but I'm assuming that's just a part
It's like
a sub-
Division
yeah,
one.
it's like a subdivision of the,
Yeah, right.
of the top
Yeah.
10
Of the NCAA.
Big
Right,
Ten.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. We
He
have a
played
lot
at the
of
Olympics
guys
too,
and
Sean.
Yeah.
he had 6 points in 4 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
very like low. He's very like low key. Like no one talks about him as much as our other prospects like Hudson, Mayu. No one really talks about him.
I think it's because he hasn't shown up to training camp yet. I
Yeah,
think that's the reason why.
that
He
makes
can't,
Hopefully-
he's not allowed.
And one more question for you guys. What do you guys think of Yessi Alonen? Like, do you think he cracks the lineup next year?
I think he should have made it this year.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He
I
looks
think
good.
he looked great in Laval also, but I think he's great. I think he'll be if he's a perfect third liner. He's a perfect third line scoring winger. You can chip in some offense, kind of like a Lehkonen. Very similar, like in my eyes. If
He has the vision. You've seen on the passes he's made since he's been up. He has the vision. His skating can get better. He has the shot to be on the second power play, I feel like.
Right.
He's a very
And then
Yeah,
that
smart
same
he's-
player.
spot Caulfield's in, just on the
And you know-
second unit.
And you know what's great about him is the fact that the Habs in both regimes have been very patient with him, and hopefully that once he does get his actual shot, he can do some damage.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But the Habs bottom six in the future it's also looking good. Like if you add Tuck,
Owen Beck.
Kapanen, Beck, and then
Yeah.
Mishak even, like
Yeah, that's
you're looking
potential.
good in the
And
bottom six.
Mashar, I don't know if you said him. Like,
And
you have a
Mashar,
lot of
yeah.
guys.
Sorry,
who-
yeah.
You have a
I
lot
think
of. I
Mashar
think
has
they're
a
gonna,
higher ceiling.
yeah, I think they're gonna have to move like one or two of their forward prospects
Kidney,
at some point.
100%. It has to be Kidney.
Yeah.
True. I
Has to
forgot
be.
about
They're gonna have
that.
to move someone to try and bring in a goalie or a D or something. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, boys, we'll wrap it up on this note. It was really fun. Thanks for joining.
It's a lot of fun.
no
Thank you
problem.
for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
no
for having
worries.
us.
A lot
You
of
guys wanna
fun.
hop
Shout
on
out to the
again? Let us
producer,
know.
by the way. Very nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah,
Yeah, good
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
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 We don't mention him around here. He just he
Yeah,
likes to
yeah.
go
Low-key
unknown.
Low-key in
So
the back.
Yeah.
Low-key in the background.
yeah.
There you go.
All right, thanks guys. It was fun.
All right, boys. Take it
Yeah,
easy.
boys.
Thank you.
Take
You
care.
too.
Thanks.
Bye. All right.
It was fun.
Yeah, shout out to producer. We don't give him enough love.
I know. He's been so good recently.
He's smiling. He's okay.
I don't see. He's in your room.
No, I have him. I'm on FaceTime.
Oh,
Think I let him stay here? Are you crazy? Guys are free.
Pay rent.
Anyways, we have our last but not least. We had to bring him back. The fans have been wanting him. I've been seeing it all over the place. Director of Amateur Scouting for Habs Culture, Rylan Baum. And Rylan, thank
He's
you
got
so
the
much for
camera
coming.
on this time. We love it.
He's got the camera on. He's joined.
You're
I see him all
muted.
over. This guy is the most active Twitter follower I have.
Really?
He's all over the place. Yeah.
I don't see his tweets, and I follow him.
I see him.
What's
I see
up
him
with
tweeting
that?
at random people. I see him putting. I don't even know how, Rylan, when you tweet the power play lines, how do you put the names on top of each other?
Just like I don't know. You just like restart like in space and then like put the guy in the middle and then
I want you to know that
Oh.
I just followed you as of right now, and I put on your notifications. So I'm
of course
Officially
you have to.
subscribed.
Gotta get all the updates on the Habs prospects.
Yeah.
Everything.
I need to see this. All right, cool. So what do you
Anyways,
have for us today?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Like what's
Um,
yeah, just let you.
I
go
mean,
for
a
it.
lot of things like I don't know how much you guys are following up with a lot of our major prospects, but if you got any questions for me, I can answer a lot of those about the draft class coming up. I know it's really exciting with
Mhm.
how much it's been talked about. So
Okay, before we
Right.
get
I
into
don't
the
know. I'll
draft
let you
class.
guys drive the bus a little bit, and then I'll expand on whatever you guys want to ask
Yeah.
me.
Before we get into draft class, I'm gonna start right away. Eric Portillo of the Michigan Wolverines.
Eric Portillo.
Yeah.
What about him?
He doesn't want to sign in Buffalo because he's clearly
Okay.
the third man over there.
That's
Is he
fair.
legit?
We have,
Is he legit if the
oh.
Canadians ever want to go sign him to an ALC? Or do you say,
you know, there's
what?
another Buffalo
Draft another
goalie
one.
prospect. There's another Buffalo goalie prospect that
How
I
many
hope
do they
the
have?
Habs,
Oh,
you know.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
think
another
they're moving
Buffalo
him.
goalie prospect, local guy that I hope the Habs somehow make a run for.
A man who has
But,
joined our podcast before.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. Friend of the
True.
podcast.
Yeah.
Eric Portillo. I'm not like a massive goalie guy. Where I do know he's massive. He's giant. He's like
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6". He's put up solid numbers with Michigan, albeit it's on a stacked team. So
That's the
it's
thing,
like
right?
he's, some college goalie prospects. You look at guys like Caden Primo, Charlie Lindgren. Like it's it's still obviously it's better than juniors, so it's a little bit more projectable. Like obviously the defense in front of him is a lot better than what you'd be getting in the QMJHL,
Yeah.
and trying to evaluate someone that way. But yeah, it's a bit harder. He's a big guy, and there's pros and cons with that. Obviously, some of those guys take a long time. Like if you look at Sebastian Kosa, he's struggling pretty hard right now.
Mhm.
But I mean, if you look at Portillo's numbers everywhere he's been throughout, he played obviously growing up in Sweden, all there. He in the J20, J18, he put up very, very, very solid numbers. Came to the USHL, had no problem adapting to North American ice. It's obviously probably a bit easier for goalies, but still, I mean, you play goalie, so you know a bit better than I do.
Yeah.
And then once he got to Michigan, still putting up very solid numbers. This year, he's having a bit of a weaker one numbers-wise. Michigan's dealt with a lot of injuries, and so a lot of turnover in front of him. But
Mhm.
no, he's definitely, I'd say, a top 10 goalie prospect affiliated with the NHL right now. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, he'd be the best goalie in the Habs system. So if he wants to come to the Habs, yeah, it works.
Right. Yeah, well, I've seen a couple things now talking about like, look, like there's these teams that have no problem drafting goalies, whether it's in the first round or whether it's in the back later rounds, and they have no problem taking flyers on them. But at one point, some of these goalies end up developing properly, and they end up actually having some competition, and then these goalies want out. So I've seen speculation about Devin Levi being signing with Montreal. I've seen speculation about Eric Portillo. So it's interesting to see that like you can essentially get these guys for free when there was actually some draft capital used on them, right? Like it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Habs, I think the weakest, if not right-handed defenseman, they're definitely their weakest point in the prospect pool and on the normal roster is goaltending. I mean, Montembeault, like you guys were talking about earlier, he's a local guy. You could probably get him for cheap. It'd be a great backup option for a while because he's only 25. I mean, goalies last a long time, and he's still young too. So yeah, I mean, you never know. Like we have some other guys. Like I don't know if you know who Frederick de Chao is. He's over playing for Frölunda in Sweden, one of the best clubs out there. And he's a backup right now, but playing behind like one of the best European like veteran goalies, kind of. And he's doing a very solid job there. I mean, if you look at his past numbers, playing in the Allsvenskan, which is like the second division in Sweden, he's played well there. And then you look at Jakob Dobish, another Habs goalie prospect playing for Ohio State right now. He absolutely carries them. If you go look at like, I mean, college is a bit different. It's a lot more kind of like veteran important league. Like the teams with a lot of like stacked NHL prospects won't always be the best. But I mean, Ohio State is just like nowhere near in terms of talent. If you look at like teams like Michigan, Minnesota, and all those, but like he's carrying his teams to victories. Last season, like 930 save percentage. This season, he's putting up 920. Good record. So we've got some guys.
Go ahead, Mark.
It's so weird that we're talking about goalies in Montreal. Like it's the first time in my life that we have to talk about goalies. It's just weird to think about this.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I wanted to ask a question, and it's more pertaining to an actual draft prospect coming up in this year's draft. At the moment, projected mid first round. Look, we'll talk about the big names after, but I just wanted to get this out of the way. Montreal's very weak at right shot D, and I've heard a lot about Axel Sandin Pellikka, or I don't know if I'm saying that properly. But 5'11", 180, plays the right side. He plays, if I'm not mistaken, he plays in Sweden, or is that and he's been doing pretty well. I think was point per game or something at some point during the season. Is there anything that you have on him? Like are you a fan of his? Do you think that could be a position of need for Montreal, especially with the second first round pick we have in the draft? And or is there someone else in that range that you're looking towards?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at Montreal, a lot of people will like, and even just other teams in general, they always jump at that option to find the right-hand defenseman. It's no secret about it. It's the hardest position to find in the NHL. And they're just like, if you go to the deadline, my team, all we need left to become a cup contender is a first-pairing right-handed defenseman. That's
you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay for it. So yeah, Axel Sandin Pellikka, he's not small, 5'11". I mean, there's tons of good 5'11" defensemen in the NHL, but he's elite skater. That's his best asset, is his skating, his mobility, his forward mobility. He's creative in the offensive zone, and he defensively, he's no slouch. I mean, he's good at defending the rush. He's good stick work. He's not the greatest in zone defender, but you said a lot with 5'11" defensemen. I mean, clearing the net, it's just a physical thing. I mean, just how it is. But you get him a better partner to help him out. He's smart. I mean, and like a lot of kind of a stereotypical smaller Scandinavian defenseman, very good skaters, like I said. With this draft, and I think I've been clear about it with whoever I've talked to, is like, you draft a forward unless the defenseman is the best guy on the board. Where with Sandin Pellikka, I think he will get taken higher than he should go. I mean, it's not like it's going to be a crazy reach, because I think I would take him in around the 15 range, give or take. But I just think there's too much upside with forwards that I've ranked above him, where it's like, if the Habs can get him at 15, great. You get a probable second pairing defenseman with a lot of dynamic offensive upside. But I just don't think any defenseman in this draft, at least right now, show to have that top pairing defensive upside which is pretty much what the Habs need. I mean, we have a bunch of guys who show that they can be middle pairing guys like Barron, Hudson, Gooley, Harris. I mean, less on the right side, Mayu, but we've got a bunch of guys who can play second, third pairing. And if the Habs are really going to go out and just draft another guy that can do that, you're just creating a logjam, which, I mean, it's never bad to have too many good players. You can always trade them. But I think if you want to reach for Sandy Pellick, I just don't think it's the move. Great player, but there's just a lot of offensive talent, high-end offensive talent in the top 15 where Habs have struggled to score goals for 30 years. I just don't think now is the time to reach for a defenseman when we're just beginning our rebuild.
Right. That's fair.
Can we officially set Norlinder as an AHL player?
Yeah, I mean, development isn't linear with unfortunately. I mean, it's not super unfortunate because we're stacked at the left side and
exactly,
an afterthought at this point. Like, I mean, you've got Gooley, Hudson, Harris, Jack-Eye already, at least Jack-Eye, Gooley, Harris making their marks as NHL defensemen. And then Hudson, I'm in love with Hudson's game.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a Habs fan and you've never seen him play, I urge you to just not even watch a full game, just watch his highlights. Even a full game, like, even if this guy's not scoring, he's making stuff happen when he has a puck every time he has it. And this is like, there's nobody that plays like him. The way he uses his head fakes to stun defenders and just absolute animal when he has the puck. Yeah. He's all over the place. It's really like, I'm in awe watching him play. Like, I can't stress it enough how much Habs fans are going to be. It's refreshing when we'll see Hudson in a Habs jersey, and we will see him in a Habs jersey sooner rather than later because he's putting up historic numbers in the NCAA right now. He's crazy. And so Norlinder is kind of struggling. I mean, even William Trudeau is probably outplaying him right now in the AHL. He's like 3 years younger. So sucks for him, but I mean, you never know. Like I said, development's not linear with anyone. He could improve drastically in the next 2 years and turn into an NHL caliber defenseman, but I don't see it happening.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. And so kind of just now looking towards the top 5 here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Look, there's a lot of mock drafts out there. There's a lot of people with different opinions. You're always going to get that. Yep. Look, Bedard, let's keep this brief. There's no potential movement. He's not moving, right? No, there's no going to be last second shift there.
No potential challengers, nothing. He's you don't even have to think about it. He's far and away number one. Like, it's a waste of time to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, I thought that too. I just wanted to check in with our head scout here. For moving on, like, look, you have Fantilli, and I'm just naming a few here. Fantilli, Leo Carlson, Michkov, which is a massive question mark, I think. And then you kind of drop into the Zach Bensons, the Will Smiths, the Saleh or Sale, and then the Dvorsky's. So kind of like just, like, we just want to know, like, look, after the World Juniors, it was a great showcase. Like, give us some of the guys that you're high on, some of the guys that you're less high on. You don't need to go into full depth, but just kind of a brief overview of, or if there's someone that really stuck out to you, like, and you think that he might be a steal at 17, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, the first guy that jumps off the page is someone like Andrew Cristal, who's like in the public scouting sphere, at least, is like beloved. Like, go look at Elite Prospects, Dauber, any public scout on Twitter that watches him regularly. They all fall in love with him. He's an elite playmaker, great skater. If you go look at the point totals, him and Zach Benson, I haven't checked in the past couple of days, but Crystal was, up there just behind, like, not just behind Connor Bedard, but
I don't want to cut you off, but that's in the WHL, right? So he's second to Bedard in the WHL scoring.
Yeah, Benson's up there too. But Crystal, the reason I mentioned him is you're talking about someone that could fall. I can't say he plays the most projectable game. I mean, it depends on who you ask. Some people, I like Benson better just because I think he plays a lot more of a projectable game and he's more to fall back on. Even if Benson doesn't ever become, some first line play driving offensive forward, he can either become a complementary guy on the first line or even just a very good depth forward to have. His defensive IQ is like beyond his years of almost anyone I've seen in recent years. He gets under sticks and takes away pucks like no one else in the draft, pretty much. And he's just an absolute, like, hound on the puck. It's obviously harder for wingers to have strong defensive impact, but you put him on a line with a guy like Caulfield, who isn't. It's no secret that he's not the greatest guy in his own zone. Benson could drive a line defensively and just break up plays on the back check, pressure defenseman, and get the puck out of his zone. Like, he's just an absolute hound. I'm not even talking about his offensive game. I mean, he's playing on a stacked Winnipeg Ice team with guys like Matthew Savoy and Connor Geekie, who were in contention, throughout last year, top 5. Obviously, they've fallen off a little bit. But Zach Benson is just extremely impressive. I've got him firmly at 5. I think he's earned that spot. But with a guy like Crystal, the offensive upside is not, I wouldn't say much greater, but it's definitely higher than Benson's. He's a dual threat player in the offensive zone. He can thread the needle, get passes through sticks. He can create plays with his hands. He still has a solid shot, even though he's probably a playmaker at heart. But he's just boatloads of fun on offense. It's just some of his play away from the puck, in my opinion, again, with scouting, it depends on who you ask, but I found some inconsistencies on a shift-to-shift basis, which is obviously something you don't want to see. You want to see a guy, giving it his all the time. But he's just such an offensive talent, and he's not the biggest guy. So if you see someone fall because of their size to if you can grab Crystal anywhere past the 7th pick, I think it's an absolute steal. The guy's so much upside.
Interesting. And Mark, I don't know if you had anything to say.
I don't know. Who's your top 3, Rylan?
Top 3 right now? That's tough.
Can I guess it?
Sure, go ahead.
That's Bedard 1.
Yeah.
And this relates to the question that I wanted to ask, but I'm gonna stick Fantilli 2, and Leo Carlson 3.
Before you answer, Rylan,
okay,
the fact that Fantilli was dropped to a bottom 6 role and a power forward kind of checking role with Canada, does that change the way he's perceived now?
No. I think if anything, it just
makes him more versatile.
Not that it makes him more versatile. I think we already knew that he could kind of play with that intensity. Anyone who's watched him on a regular basis knows he knows how to use his body. He can throw it around. He can, use his size to gain positioning in puck battles. He can absolutely rip a shot. He's so well-rounded, and NHL teams will just be salivating over that at the draft. I mean, he's a lot like Jack Eichel, where you watch him. Jack Eichel isn't he's 6'2", he's a big guy, but he's physically strong. Mm-hmm. And you see that with Fantilli too. But there's obviously, with every prospect, there's gonna be concerns. And with Fantilli, a lot of the time, I think elite prospects, they do their stream where they debate their rankings. A lot of their scouts come together and they show all the debates and stuff. It's pretty interesting. You should go watch it. Mm-hmm. When they talk about Fantilli, it's a lot of the time he tries to do too much with the puck on his stick, and then when it's not working, he kind of fades out a little bit, which is a bit of a pretty big concern. But he has all the skills to do what he's trying to do. It's just when it's not working for him, it kind of fades out, and that's what they kind of explain it, and I see that too. Whereas with Carlson, it's if he's not producing offensively, where he went on a bit of a cold stretch in the SHL. I mean, he's already putting up some pretty phenomenal numbers. But with Carlson, he knows what he is. He's doing a lot more off the puck. Whereas Fantilli definitely has the potential. He has the speed. He has the IQ. He has the frame to be a force in both zones. He falls into that Leon Draisaitl kind of range, where it's which is a phenomenal player, but lesser so, where it's when he's not with the puck on his stick, the effort isn't always there in the defensive zone. Mm-hmm. With Carlson, I like the two-way play a little bit more. It's kind of a tale of two stories, where it's Fantilli is extremely high upside. Carlson does too, and Carlson just a bit safer of a bet to be a safer player. I mean, Fantilli's I'm saying he's not going to be a top 6 center. He will be a top 6 center. He has all the tools. But yeah, I've been flip-flopping. I think right now, just because of the upside and how much I've watched Fantilli personally, I'd have him above Carlson right now, but they're close. And Carlson, I wouldn't bat an eye if a team took Carlson over Fantilli.
Okay, and is there a separation between 3 and 4? Like, is it like 1 and then 2 and 3, and then that's when the draft breaks in?
No, I think Mitchov is still, if it weren't for the whole situation going on with Russia and then that on top of his contract, which I don't think should be in
An issue.
consideration, at least the
Okay.
contract shouldn't, because if you're a team like Chicago, where they're going to suck for 5 years, 4 years, you know,
Yeah.
they're going to be drafting at the top of the draft at least. Like, you know, you got next year, you got guys like Macklin Celebrini, and you guys probably know Aaron Kiviharju, a little bit left-handed defenseman from Finland. You know, you got guys like that coming in, and then you got Michael Misa in 2025, that guy who's tearing up the OHL right now. Chicago's going to have chances to draft players to support Michkov. So it's like, so what if he's not here for 3 years? They want to suck anyways.
Well, isn't that kind of like, sorry to cut you off, but isn't that kind of like a Kaprizov situation, except Kaprizov was just drafted way later due to that whole thing?
Yeah. But with Kaprizov, it was more of a, he played in a lesser known place, so a lot of scouts just didn't go watch him. Where right now, you know, he was playing with Moscow, which is like, or sorry, St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg, which is like the most well-known team. But he's just like, scouts can't go watch him in person right now because of all the border restrictions and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, with Michkov, it's like the offensive upside is like second to none. He scores goals unlike anything I've ever seen. You know, like you play NHL, right? You know, like close quarters, the zone ability.
Yeah.
He's like that on steroids.
Really?
This guy can rip a puck in tight and find spaces between the goalies padding like nobody. You kind of watch how Kaprizov plays. He scores a lot of his goals in tight. He's not shooting from, you know, the hash mark, like the ring line or whatever towards the board that much. But like Michkov is just like, he could score 70 goals in the NHL if he wanted to.
So then my question to you is that although there's all that concern, like if you put that aside, is he a number 2 overall pick?
I mean, I think there's still debate just because there's tons of offensive creativity from Michkov, and a lot of people don't even talk about his playmaking. There's obviously concerns with decision making. Like I said, he's the skill to be a great playmaker, but he throws the puck, like he throws pucks into nowhere sometimes, which, like, again, he'll be playing the next 3 years in a pro league and hopefully being developed properly. I mean, for Chicago's sake, or whoever takes him, I'm saying Chicago, but whoever takes him. So yeah, I mean, he's time to develop his skills before he gets to the NHL. But the biggest and most obvious concern, if you ask anybody who's watched even a game of him, is it's not that he's bad defensively. He does not even like care.
I heard he's a massive liability.
He'll cherry pick. He'll let shots go by him. He won't skate for pucks. It's like, it's just not even a concern for him. Like defending isn't even.
It's just non-existent. It's just not.
If you watch a guy like Nikita Kucherov, offensively they're very different. Kucherov's much more of a playmaker, where Michkov's just an absolute sniper. Kucherov like does not care defensively at all, but he's so good offensively that he doesn't even matter.
But see, that's the thing, is that like if you pair him with someone who can actually hold down the fort, like in Kucherov's case, you have a point, right? Like, does it? I'm not saying, of course, you don't want to be playing shorthanded every time the guy's out there, but does it, like, if he has that much upside offensively, does it really matter?
Yeah, and that's why I think scouts are talking about it a little bit too much. But you have to look at it as a whole picture where, like I said, his goal scoring is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And that comes with the concern of, okay, if we've never seen it before, how well it will project to the next level?
Sure.
Where some scouts say, like, okay, like this kid's just like out of this world, he'll be fine. Where others, like, there's always going to be skepticism. I mean, people were at the beginning of the year were saying, oh, Fantilli's ripping up the NCAA, maybe he'll be better than Bedard. But I think at the end of the day, Michkov, as long as he comes over and gets the good ice time in the KHL the next 3 years and his game develops properly, I don't see, like, the bare minimum with him is a 35 goal scorer. Like, he's that special offensively. Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Anything else, Shorts? I'm good on my end.
I think I'm good. No, I think
we're hitting 20 minutes here.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was great. I mean, we'll definitely have you back on for another episode to kind of discuss that as we get closer, and hopefully Montreal, I mean, right now would have the 7th pick if it was based on standings, but hopefully that they fall into that top 5.
Yeah, you want to be. I think there's a bit of a like once that you get out of that top four. I love Benson. I think he's great, but after Benson, it's like very, very wide open. I think you could take
Okay.
anybody at 6, and it's all up to how they progress.
Okay, so
over
top
time.
5 is kind of like a necessity. So
It's that kind of like just perfect zone you want to be. Obviously, I mean, the higher the better. You want Bedard
Right.
at the end
Right.
of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of
Agreed.
talent, and Habs fans, and we're not even talking about the Florida pick.
yeah, exactly.
There's tons and tons of talent in this draft. Guys that can fall, guys that will develop over time. So I wouldn't be worried. I trust the management for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited, and all Habs fans should be excited too. The future's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
It was a lot of fun, Rylan. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Rylan.
Thanks for having me, guys. I love coming on here.
Yeah, thanks a
we'll
lot,
have
and
you again soon.
we'll absolutely.
Yeah. All right. See
See
you
ya.
again.
Thanks a lot, Rylan.
No problem.
There you go.
All right.
Well, that was good.
We
got a lot of
that was
draft
all of our
insight.
guests.
He seemed. Is it just me, or is he improved in terms of his knowledge? Like he's very like.
Oh, he's up
dissecting
there.
play-
He's up there.
Yeah, no. You gotta give him a
Rylan's
shot
good.
somewhere.
He knows what he's talking about.
It's good that we have him
knows what
under
he's talking about.
contract.
Yeah.
you miss what I
I'm like
just
our
said?
producer
Oh.
here.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
No, you heard me. I said it's good that we have him under contract.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's good. Yeah, thank God. Imagine. I'm sure there's other podcasts around here that's gonna try and snag him, but
Yeah.
we're lucky enough.
Don't worry. It's a lucrative deal. Don't worry.
So as we conclude this 50th episode, we wanted to thank everyone for joining. Like we said in the intro, it was super fun. We're super glad we did it. Again, we're recording this after we actually recorded this. So again, thanks to everyone who joined. We look forward to one day doing it again in the future, because I think it's a good opportunity to get different opinions, like we were saying before. So hopefully we can get that done. And we thank you again for your patience and for waiting for this episode to come out, and for everyone who decided to join.
It was a lot of fun, guys. We really appreciate the guests coming on and giving us their opinions. And like Mark said, we'll be happy to have you guys back and new guests. So if you guys want the opportunity to come back on or be a first timer on the episode on the show, feel free to shoot us a message, Twitter, Instagram, and we'll be sure to do something like this again in the near future.
Exactly. So thank you for everyone who listened, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Take care, guys.